Welcome. Okay, I want to talk about what I think is a very, very meaningful, important lesson from the Parsha. I did. You see, I brought my head back in with me.
Okay.
And I have a hard time starting without just saying something about, even though, I don't like philosophizing too much, but we are heading into some really, really tough weather. And it's been, I actually was I started doing this chaplaincy thing that I told you about. So this morning I spent 2 hours in the police department learning Masechta Yavamis, but I just did it at the police department. Yeah. I'm sure that I'm the first person to learn Masechta Yavamis in the City of Waterbury Police Department break room. But anyway, but even the cops there were saying that, like, it's been a while since Waterbury had a winter. Like, Rivka Baruch, you've been around. It's been a while, no? You remember the early years? It was just, like, unbelievable. Just, like, snow and snow and snow. And it's been years since we've had that, And there is a certain tsar. There's a certain difficulty. It's not easy. The bitter cold. Shabbos is supposed to be bitter cold, like really bitter cold, and the snow is supposed to be a lot of snow. So, real Waterbury style, a lot of snow. Now we don't know. We've heard that story before. I believe it when I see it. There are many times that we've been bracing ourselves for these massive storms, and maybe because we're old Waterburyans, but we come outside and we're like, I don't know. You call that snow? Like we weren't so impressed. It's interesting, the attitude in the community. It's a very, very interesting thing that I find that maybe it's a Yiddish thing, that when things get challenging, people rise up. So like when you have, like, a few years ago, we woke up Shabbos morning. I don't know if you remember. We woke up Shabbos morning, and the snow was so high that the trucks that were trying to clear the snow were breaking down in the streets. So my wife, said to me then, like, I don't think you should go to shul. No one's going to be there. And I said to her, I guarantee you everyone's going to be there. You don't miss going to shul on a day that you have to crawl through the snow, You go those days. And there's a certain strength there, like when the cold sets in, that we soldier our way to shul. And the boys know, by the way, the boys in the Friday night learning, you could ask them. The boys know. They know what I'm going to speak about when I come in Friday night. They wait for it. It's so funny, by the way. Dovey did it to me this past Shabbos. They, like, certain times of the year, they order up that speech. And I'm trying to be original and creative, and they're like, no, we want that speech, But when I always speak to them about when it's like these really cold nights and you have these little kids going out after the Friday night meal, where I can't imagine them wanting to do anything other than, like, wrapping themselves in a blanket and huddling on the couch with a book or something, I don't like, it's not like go out in the cold is an exciting thing to do after the meal on a Friday night. And the shul is packed those nights. These kids soldier their way. Kids, they slip on the ice and they soldier their way to shul. And I talk to them always about, I always try to paint a picture of what's happening in Shamayim. Like how HaKadosh Baruch Hu is watching these kids walk to shul to learn Torah and so on. But it really is something that we have to keep in mind also. And, appreciate about ourselves. And we, the cold is maybe just a mushel for a lot of things in life, that sometimes as the challenges go up, it lights our fires, it ignites our engines, to push forward harder, to push forward with more energy. So Hashem should keep us all safe in the difficult weather, and we should have, Baruch Hashem, we should have warm homes. The heat should be on, the electricity should stay on, and we should have, people who are listening to this not from Waterbury might not understand the greatness of this bracha, but we should have running water, and and we should be, we should be zeicha to grow from it. What was that?
Everyone's laughing at it, so
No, I was wishing I was giving a bracha that we should have running water through the week. We were talking about the weather, so I was okay. So Parshas Bay. So there's a midah that we can get a little bit of a grasp of in this week's parsha that's not so apparent. I want to draw your attention to it. Part of the beauty of Parshas Bay is that Klal Yisrael receives as a nation their first mitzvah. And the first mitzvah that Klal Yisrael receives is the mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh. And that itself gives you cause, to pause, this is the first mitzvah for the nation. We're receiving our first mitzvah. Would you have picked Rosh Chodesh? Wouldn't you have picked maybe Shabbos or learning Torah? Or, I don't know, you would have picked Rosh Chodesh? I mean, Rosh Chodesh is a beautiful mitzvah. But is that the mitzvah you pick as the very first mitzvah? There must be some lesson there, some meaning there that has to do with our identity as a nation. And the truth is that there's a lot there that has to do with our identity as a nation. But what's interesting is that different nations of the world count their years or their calendars based on different things. Most countries, most civilizations count based on the sun. The solar year is the year, and that's it's 2026 is a solar year. We do not do that. We count based on the months, the lunar months. Each cycle of the moon is a month, and 12 cycles is a year. And there are religions that also do that they count based on the moon. But there's something that we do that's unique, which is that we count based on the moon, but we hook it onto the sun. In other words, if we just did lunar, the Yom Tovim would go through the whole year. You'd have Pesach in the winter sometimes. Yeah. Just lost the Zoom. You'd have these because the solar year is longer, so slowly but surely it would fall behind and it would travel the whole year. Can you imagine? You'd have Rosh Hashanah in August, and then you'd have Rosh Hashanah in July, and then you'd have Rosh Hashanah in June. Which might be fun for teaching, or maybe not fun for teaching, but that's what would be. But no, Chazal said that's not what we do, and there are Ramazim in the Torah for that as well. We do a lunar calendar that has a mechanism to catch up to the sun every few years. And that's why every few years we have 2 Adars. Like next year, not this year, but next year there are 2 Adars, which helps us catch up to the sun. So the sun is longer, so we finish faster, so every few years we fall behind and behind and behind, and then we add a month and we catch up. That's interesting. And it gets even more interesting because there's a medrash that says like this. The medrash says that it makes sense that the Jewish people count by the moon and the nations of the world count by the sun. Because the small should count by the small. And the big should count by the big. And Esav was the big son, the Bina HaGadol. Esav is the Gadol. And therefore he counts by the son, which is the Gadol. And Yaakov, who was the Katan, there are psukim that call Yaakov the Katan, he's the small one, so we count by the small moon. How's that making you feel? Are you kidding? That's our first mitzvah? Our first mitzvah is that we're tiny, so we go to the tiny thing? And the moon doesn't even give light. All the light of the moon is dependent on the light of the sun. So the nations of the world, they go straight to the source, and they count based on the sun. And we, HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose for his nation, pathetically, to find the smaller one of the Ma'oros, that doesn't give its own light, and that's how we count our lives. Is that what HaKadosh Baruch Hu thinks about us? It's very mysterious. That's the first mitzvah. The Gadol goes to the Gadol, and the Katan goes to the Katan. That's the first mitzvah. And every few years we try to catch up to the sun. And the nations of the world are like, well, we're already here. Right? You're right, because they're always on the sun. So every few years we're like, okay, we catch up to the sun. We add another adder. We caught up. Hi. Thank you for joining us. You'll fall behind again. And then a few years later, we do it again. What is the meaning of this? What's the meaning of this calendar that we have? The answer is so important. And it gets into a little bit the way that Yaakov and Esav were born. Esav was born with the maturity of an adult. His body looked like the body of an adult. He was fully matured. And Yaakov was born and he looked like a baby, like we know a newborn baby to look. Okay? When I tell you that Esav was born like a full adult, it probably in your mind, you visualize that it's a little grotesque. Like he was born as mature, beard, as an adult. Why? Why does that bother you that he was born as an adult? So you're not thinking about it, you're like, because a baby should be born a baby. What were you going to say?
It's not natural.
It's not natural. But why? Why do we associate that with that? Why is that the natural?
Not cute.
It's not pure.
It's not cute, but I agree with you. It's not cute. I'm with you.
It's not pure.
I'm with you. That's why people listen to this shir, by the way. They don't get this in my other shir. Okay? Okay?
Also, if they were twins, then they should have been, even though they weren't identical twins, they
Yeah,
should have
right.
been
But definitely
on
there
the
was...
same wavelength.
Yeah, that's true.
No, but it's not pure. It's not the beginning. It's not the process.
Okay. So the cute might be... I want to explain to you something. When HaKadosh Baruch, I saw that I had at home an article that I was actually looking for a different article, but I guess Hashem put it in my head for a reason. I saw an article at home. You may have seen this. It was written many years ago, where somebody wrote this article about taking care of a patient, a nurse taking care of a patient who was bald and drooled and couldn't control his going to the bathroom, and best his food was, he couldn't control his eating, and it was toothless, and this nurse is writing that she absolutely waits every day to go take care of this patient. And you're listening to this, you're like, you're a hero for taking care of this patient. It sounds horrible. And then you find out the patient is a baby. It's a baby. It's bald and toothless and drooling and getting food all over the place and needs to be diapered. Suddenly it became cute. It's interesting, right? How come the old man is not cute? How come we look at that and we're like, it's an effort, and we love elderly people, we want to love and take care of, and when a person reaches an age or a stage or an illness where they need to be taken care of, they don't have to be old to need to be taken care of, we want to, of course, give them the respect and the dignity, but it's an effort. And when it comes to a baby, I'm always like this spell. You could have like these 15-year-old high school girls, like, oh, I'll change the baby. Like, why? Why would you want to do that? Why do you want, like, the kid is drooling, dripping, this, that, like, oh, I'll give him a bath. I'm not saying every 15-year-old girl, but, but it's like, but you know the type, you know what I mean? Nobody's doing that to the people in nursing homes. Nobody's like, oh, no, I want to give him a bath. Nobody's doing that. Why? The reason is because the beauty of a baby is that it's reaching towards maturing. Is that it's a bundle of, it's a capsule of the future. Is because it has so much to grow and to learn and to become. And when you hold a baby, you're holding a whole future. And now, when a mother holds her baby, she's not thinking like philosophically, like I'm saying. But I'm explaining to you why he's cute. He's cute because we see that youthfulness, that thing that's going to grow and develop, and we're going to teach it midos, and we're going to teach it a way of life, and it's going to, and all of our future desire and tefillos and ratzon and future nachas is packed into that cute, right? But that's what it is. We see in a baby, we don't see the same thing as we see in an old man, because we see in a baby future. growth,
Potential.
potential. I don't like using the word because Rabbi Kalish doesn't like the word, but I took it out of my vocabulary. It's not what Rabbi Kalish meant. He would be maskim to use the word in this context. I don't disagree with you, but he's so strong about it that I just took it out of my vocabulary. I don't use the word. That's what happened. But anyway, that's what's going on with Klal Yisrael using the moon. The katan, the small, means that it's not yet gadol. The gadol means that it's finished. Like Rav Baruch, as you know, we're doing some work in our basement. You're aware of that, right? So I go down there tonight, and I see certain things, certain marks, certain progress that was made. That's very, very exciting. The truth is, it doesn't look exciting at all. It's a wreck. You know why it's exciting? Because it represents something. Because it's going to become something. That's why it's beautiful. Because it's going to be something. If somebody who's working there would call me down to the basement and say, okay, we're done. Enjoy your basement. I want to show you what it looks like. And I would come down and see what I saw today. I would be horrified. If that's the gadol, it's grotesque. If that's the katan, it's beautiful. Because it's going to continue to unfold and to grow and to develop and to become and to become polished. And the katan means that you are a work in progress. That you are going to grow and become and steig and develop and create. Gadol means you're done. And that's what it is. Esav was born as a mature adult because Esav just wants to live in this world and enjoy the indulgences of this world. He's not yearning to become something, to attach himself, to be zeicha to something, to connect with something. He just wants what's here. If he's yearning for more of what's here. More olam hazeh. More money. Food, more food. Riches, more riches. But he's not yearning for higher, bigger, more sophisticated, more godly, more spiritual. He's not yearning for that. So he's born mature because he doesn't have room to grow. That's why the concept of a baby that's mature is like grotesque to us, because you're losing that sense of future. There's no future. This is the adult. Klal Yisrael is the katan because Klal Yisrael is the katan that's always trying to bring ourselves higher. We have a mission, and we've been on that mission for a few thousand years now. And each of us in our individual lives, we go through the things we go through, and we deal with challenges, and we feel satisfaction from the wonderful things that we have, and we are overwhelmed and have to work through the things that are difficult because we are on a journey. Because we're trying to get somewhere, we're trying to be something. We consider ourselves katan. We consider ourselves small. Small means I'm going to get bigger. Big means I'm done. So of course Klal Yisrael counts by the moon. Because what does the moon spend the month doing? Reaching for more and more of the sun. And every few years we catch up to the sun. And the Goyim are like, oh, you finally caught up. We're always counting by the sun. Yeah, because you're not going anywhere. Because you're not becoming anything. Because your aspirations are just for more of what you already have. You're not trying to connect with Hashem. You're not trying to become bigger. We talked about this a little bit last week, like having the aspiration to become bigger, to believe in myself that I can become bigger, that I can be more spiritual, that I can be more giving, that I can be a bigger person. And that's true as a kehila, and it's true as a nation, that we're reaching for bigger, we're reaching higher. Doesn't it make sense? Of course that we count by the moon. Because we're still growing. That's the point. And this is true. This is something that we have to not like they talk about the concept. They talk about it, also about this mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh. Chodesh is newness. They talk about always being new, like his chadshus and being able to be fresh and new. And it is something that's important for us to recognize that, like, life doesn't get old. Every day is a new challenge. Every day is a new accomplishment. Every, different tkufais of our life. As we get older, as we deal with different stages in our children's lives, as we deal with the different challenges that come up, each stage HaKadosh Baruch Hu set out for us as another rung in a ladder and as another opportunity to go from being a katan to a gadol. And the Talmidei Chachamim and Tzadikim and Tzidkaniyos are those that are able to have a sense of freshness, a sense of excitement, a sense of yearning, even as they go from challenge to challenge, and not to get numb and old and cynical and bitter. So I think that's an important, very, very, very important nekuda, and it also plays a role a little bit when it comes to how we feel about ourselves. That story that I've told you many times, but it bears repeating for this context. I want to bring like a little bit of a different lesson out of it. We have this like it's almost like a mythology in our family already at this point. This story that happened to me when I was in Kail in Eretz Yisrael, that there was a Kail guy there who was much older than me, and I very, very much respected him. He was very, very, very sharp, insightful, and ultimately I moved back to America because of him. He's the one that pulled me aside and said, "I've been watching you and this and that. It's time for you to go back." And I'm grateful to him, even though it was torturous to leave Eretz Yisrael. But it was the right move at the right time, and he was right, and I'm grateful that he stepped in and said what needed to be said. But a little bit before that, there was something I was dealing with inside, and I don't remember what it was. I wish I did. I don't remember what it was. And I went over to him. How old was I? 25, 24? Maybe 24. And I still remember clearly that he was sitting and learning, and he had a stender next to him, and as guys do in the base Spanish, I kind of like leaned over the stender to him, and I like interrupted his learning. Sorry about that. And I said, am I a baby that I feel, and I don't remember what I asked about. I just remember that I asked, am I a baby that? And he was learning very intensely, and he used to learn with one finger on the Gemara and one finger on the Rashi, and he's very, very intense, and he looks up at me, and he says, Ken. Yes. And he goes back to learning. And I'm leaning over the stender, and I'm like, so he says to me, Azata baby, Azma. So you're a baby, so? Now the lesson that I took from it, which was very, very important, and it became like a legend in the family, is like, okay, there's room to grow. A little bit, this is related to what we're talking about, like, there's room to grow. So you're a baby about something. Okay. Whoa, you're a baby, so? Like, it was very, it sounds chutzpahdik, but it was very accepting in a way. Like, yes, that is childish. You'll grow up. Yeah, you'll get there. And I've had opportunities like this, even recently, to sit with a Rav or a Gadol and to describe a feeling, and for him to say, when I was in Eretz Yisrael, I went to a very, very chashuv Talmud Chacham, and I was there a few weeks ago, and I sat with him on an Erev Shabbos, and I spoke to him about some personal thing that I was thinking about, and he was like, okay, good, so let me tell you where you need to get. He didn't say you're a baby, even though I wouldn't put it past him, but he was like, I see you're getting there, here's where you need to get. Like, there's room to grow. There's room to grow. And he described something very personal about himself, which is why I'm not saying who it was. He described something very personal about himself. He had tears in his eyes as he was being mechazik me, but he was basically saying, there's more to grow up. We like to say it nicely. We say there's more to grow, but it's more to grow up, And this young Talmud Chacham was turning to me saying, Azata baby, Azma. And in my house, it's a phrase, Azata baby, Azma. Now, I thought that all my kids received that chinuch, and they know that story. My wife and I use it all the time. Sometimes we're delusional about what our kids absorbed and what they didn't. Anyway, I was walking in Eretz Yisrael with Yaks, I think, and I met, just 3 years ago, I was walking in Har Nof, and I met this guy. Shalom Aleichem, how are you? And I say to him, this is Azata baby, Azma. He's like, what are you talking about? But, okay, okay. And then I told him the story, and he's like, yeah. Like the whole thing was like, but to me, it was like, he's like, and I'm also trying to explain to this guy, you once said to me, he's like, I did what? The whole story it was like a legend. It was like it was a turning point in my brain for something. So it was meaningful to him. It was some comment he threw out to me while he was learning. He probably remembers the Taisus he was learning better than the comment he made. But to me, it was meaningful. And
it's also Musar at the same time. It's Musar at the same time as acceptance. That's what's cool.
Yeah. And, it was. It was. I wouldn't do that today. I think people can't, I think I was able to take it. I would be very careful how I say it to somebody. But in a way, and that's what I want to bring out in terms of what we're talking about today, it's okay to consider ourselves works in progress. We think, the people around this table, I don't know who's watching on Zoom and who's listening, but I know the people around this table are in very, very different stages in life, okay? We're all, myself included, in all different stages in life, But whichever stage we're at, we don't have to consider ourselves grown-ups. We don't yet have to grow up, none of us. We can still face what's coming with the sense of being a katan. I have more to grow. Azata baby, azma. So you're a baby, so we're babies. We still have more to grow. I'm talking about being a baby in the sense that I still want to learn. I still want to grow. I'm still unfinished. I'm still raw. I'm not done, because you know what happens after we're done? After we're done, we go home. And I'm not ready to go home, because I'm not done. I'm still young. It doesn't matter how old I am. I'm still young. I'm still learning. I still have so many things I want to develop in myself. I still have things I want to accomplish. I'm not talking about external things. I mean, as a person, I want to be able to be more whole and more accepting and more loving and more have more emunah and more trusting in Hashem and more supportive of my family and more loving to my friends and my mispalim. I still have so much more that I want to do. I'm ani baby, Azma. I'm still a baby. To look at ourselves, if Klal Yisrael received a mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh, that the point of the mitzvah is that we're the katan, we're the katan, like an underbar mitzvah, we're the katan. Therefore, we count by the small one. That's always yearning to get bigger. I don't have to decide that there's a time in my life I have to be the grown-up. Yeah, there is that balance. There are people that spend their whole lives, and it's something to watch out for. There are people that spend their whole lives preparing for life. Their whole life is a preparation. And at some point, you're like, I don't know how to tell you this, but life started, But that's one side of the spectrum. But the other side of the spectrum is that you sometimes have 25-year-olds that think that they have to be shalom. They're done. They're adults, they're here, they're finished. Now it's just about what they're going to accomplish externally, but this is who they are. And that's not our approach. I'm ani baby, Azma. I still want to grow. I still want to learn from people. I love, some of the things I love about some chaverim of mine and rabbeim of mine is that they're still learning from the people around them. They're still saying, Rabbi Kalish is very like this. They're still saying, did you see that guy? Isn't it amazing how and not doing, I know he's a very nice guy, but he's really learning from the people around him. I so admire that. You know what it means? We miss it. Sometimes there's a distraction. So I'm looking at you because, and both of you know the Kalishes very, very well. But like, so you'll be sitting there. There'll be a shir or a shmooze or whatever it is, and it'll be like, so and so is such an amazing davener. It's so amazing to watch him daven. Right? Could you imagine him saying something like that, right? And you think that, like, wow, he's so nice how he's machazik that person and making him feel good. And that's true. But you're missing the godless. The godless is that he is looking to daven better. You understand what that means? That he's still looking to daven better. And he's seeing someone who davens, and he's saying to himself, I want to learn from that person. That's because he's a baby. And I say this with reverence. Because he's still a baby. He still wants to grow. And when you meet a person, as a person matures, that stays open like that, there are midah. I see it in shul all the time. The guys here in shul, each one of them, you could learn from. Each one has midas that are spectacular, that you could learn from, that you could grow from. If I open myself up to say, Ani baby, I'm a baby, I still am a katan, I still want to grow up. So this person is such a achrayus, and this person is so kind, and this person is so loyal, and this person is such an amazing father, and this person is so gracious and so generous, and all the different midas that you see, and not in the sense of I need to compliment all those people. That's an external thing. In the sense personally, privately, beini uvein atzmi, just for myself, I want to notice because I want to continue to grow. I'm a katan, ani baby. Azma. I'm a baby. I don't have to have all the answers and be a complete product. The day I become a complete product, the next day they'll be putting me into the ground. No, I don't have to be a complete product. I'm an unfinished product, and I yearn to continue to grow and get better and better. That's the message. And this gets even more negeya to our attitude when we think about also, and I want to say this, I want to say this because I want to give myself musar, because I'm not doing it enough. I noticed I was driving with my wife the other day. She doesn't even know that I was thinking about this. She's probably finding out right now. I was driving with her the other day, and there was snow on the trees. And it's kind of beautiful when you drive on the highway and you see the snow on the trees. As she was saying, it's like a painting, she was just commenting like that. And I was like, yeah, okay. And we're driving. And it started to bother me that I didn't notice that. It started to bother me that she was still wide-eyed. And I was in my own thoughts. And that's a mistake. I should learn from her. That's a mistake. We have to maintain the sense of just wide-eyed fascination. A mother has a baby, right? So she has her first child, and it's like, when you hold that little tiny baby, it's just like, it's like a magical thing, a little baby. And then, you take care of babies long enough, the next one, the teacher's in the room, and there's something beautiful about a person seeing a baby after dealing with babies for 25 years and still going, a baby. There's something beautiful about that. There's something lichtig. There's something alive. We're going to have a snowstorm soon, apparently. That's what they tell us. They're not Nevi'im, but that's what they tell us. And we're going to look outside our windows, okay? And we're going to see, and I'd much rather when this happens on Shabbos, because then we don't have to dig out the car, but it's probably going to be on Sunday or Monday morning, and we're going to see the Waterbury covered in snow. Some of us are going to notice, and some of us will not notice. You see what I did? I even just failed what I'm saying right now. You noticed that, right? I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to wake up Monday morning, and I'm going to have to dig out my car. No! I'm going to wake up Monday morning, and I am going to gasp from the beauty of watching a city suddenly become a magical white paradise. And for a few minutes in the morning, while, until everything starts getting all busy, it's going to be that way. And if you're really lucky and you wake up before it gets light outside, and you look out the window, and you see a quiet city covered in snow, and you could look at it like a 9-year-old and just love it. We remember, my wife and I, this time, but it was easy to appreciate when I was in my 20s. I have to see if I could appreciate it now. When we first got married, and there was that blizzard right after we got married. There was a big blizzard of '96, and we were living in a basement, so the basement windows. You know what it's like? Yeah. So, but anyway, it was still nighttime. It was snowing, and there were big drifts of snow and everything. And my single brother, I was about to say my single crazy brother, but he just married off a child, and he's not a baby anymore. He banged on the door and basically made his chassan and kala, brother and sister-in-law, bundle up and come out with him in the middle of the night. And we jumped around the streets of Brooklyn. I remember this vague thought in the back of my mind, like, if someone is looking out their window, I hope they can't recognize me. We were mamish being babies, okay? We were babies. We were laughing, rolling in the snow. They were like drifts of snow. I want that now. I did one time, my wife thought I was crazy. It snowed once in Yerushalayim when we lived there. And I woke up Devorah. She was a little kid. I hope that's okay. I woke up my daughter to see the snow. It was Yerushalayim. It was snowing in Yerushalayim. No? Shouldn't have woken her up?
Absolutely, you should have.
I wanted her to see the snow. Okay, we have a little debate going on here about that. But anyway, but like, yeah. But this, I'm not saying this just about having fun. I'm saying this about a personality. I'm saying this about, we're talking about the snow because it's winter time, but I'm also saying about when you bite into a fruit and it's just like, wow, this is delicious, because you noticed. And you know how you can eat a fruit and just like it's gone, and you just didn't even taste it. You just ate it without tasting it. Because you weren't here, you weren't present, you weren't wide-eyed, you weren't being that katan anymore. You got old. And I think that with the hashkafa of being a katan, also has to come a levitikite and a joy. And I'll be honest with you, it's a struggle. It's a struggle because life has a lot of achrayas, and a lot of decisions, and a lot of challenges, and we carry a lot of things. I spoke to an asken today, and he started to ask me, like, how do people who do what we do come home at night and laugh? We had a whole conversation about it. And but we have to laugh. We have to laugh, and we have to enjoy, and we have to find the cute things that our kids do or grandchildren do, whatever the case may be, as hilariously funny. And we have to be prepared to be silly, and we have to be able to giggle, and we have to be able to keep a youth. If we want to be a katan, we have to keep a little bit of katnus in us. When I say katnus, you know me long enough to know that I don't chas v'shalom mean small-mindedness, because I'm very against that small-mindedness. We have to have very large hasagas. But with the large hasagas could come a certain innocence of just experiencing life. I even mean to go out into the cold. This morning we went out. This morning when I went to daven, it was 5 degrees. Mm-hmm. Okay? You go out and you experience the cold. You know the difference between going out and like fighting it and going out and just being in it? I don't know if you know the difference, but play around with it a little bit if you have to be out there, okay? But just to be alive and to be present. When you sit with your child and you color a picture, make the picture beautiful. It's nothing. It's a coloring book picture. But live, be present, be a child a little bit. Allow yourself to have fun. Listen to music, dance to the music. We had this major debate by the Shabbos table recently. I don't have a solution to the debate. I can't help you with it about the fact that Jewish music has in its silly songs today. I don't know if we talked about this recently, but that there are silly songs in Jewish music today. If you go on to 24/6, you could listen to some really silly songs. Okay? Don't ask me for a rendition. I'm all for being a child. I'm not doing that right now. Okay? But it looks like around the table you have some idea what I'm talking about. Okay? And there's what to talk about. What has music become for us? What does it mean? What's the value of music? But there is a maila. There is something nice about people being able to let go and be silly. There's something important about that. There's something nice about that. And that's something that comes along with the sense of ani baby. I'm a baby. I'm saying I'm a baby because I have more to grow, because I'm looking with wide eyes at the world. I'm looking at the people in my life, and I'm saying, these are people that I can learn from, and I can become a better person. I'm looking at my children, who have a lot of opinions. I don't just mean mine, yours too. Have a lot of opinions, and I'm thinking, I can learn from them too. They have to learn from me, but I could also learn from them, and their perspective, and their understanding of things. And along with that, I'm taking into life a certain wide-eyed, childlike exuberance into my life. Last few months, I have not been great at this. And that's why I want this Shuir, Be'ezer Hashem, I want to be laughing this Shabbos. This cold, freezing Shabbos. I want to be laughing this Shabbos. I want to be able to just enjoy being alive. When you wake up in the morning and Hashem gives back your neshama, it's a reason to smile. I once had a roommate that used to wake up in the morning and start singing. Okay? It's not my wife. Okay? And I used to get so annoyed. Could you imagine? What are you so happy about? You know, we did not have our coffee yet. Like, what are you so happy about? But he was right. You got your neshama back. There's a day ahead of you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought you back because he trusts you and because he loves you. And who knows what will unfold today. Take on the day. He's right. And that's something that we should keep in mind from when we wake up and when we have this chus to give our neshama back to Hashem in the end of the day, after a long day, to be able to also with a simcha. We put in a day serving Hashem, feel satisfied. Baruch Hashem, our lives are lives of serving Hashem. We made mistakes today. We'll have time to correct them. But we also accomplished a ton today, and we're grateful for that and excited to have been here. Thank you, Hashem, for this day and for these people and for these experiences, and to go with an exuberance and to feel the world and to be alive. And if you drink something before you go to sleep, taste it. How often do we not taste what we eat? We're so in our heads. We're not tasting. We're not experiencing. We sit with our kids around the table and we're not experiencing. You know when we realize it? When they leave, right? When they leave, then we're like, when he's in Eretz Yisrael, then you're like, oh, I miss him. We have to appreciate when they're around the table, even if they're fighting, hanging from the ceilings. But we have to appreciate them and stay alive. Hashem should give us the strength. I never thought I would say this, but Hashem should give us the strength to stay small, to stay young, to stay little. And Eretz Hashem, to spend our whole lives yearning for godless, yearning for greatness. Yashikayach.
Thank you.
I had a question. If Yaakov is before like that, it almost sounds like there's no bechira.
A very good question. Turn it off.
Also, it's himself.
You should put the coding or something.
Okay.